Welcome to the Soulcery Podcast, your sacred space to delve into spiritual tools, topics, and practices that will illuminate your path of soul remembering and healing. I'm your host, llshit Costa, a soul guide, alchemist, soul writing coach, and the creator of the Trust Pathway. I'm deeply grateful to have you here with me. Together, we'll embark on a profound exploration of self-discovery and healing, unlocking the secrets that lie within. Hello, and welcome to the Soulcery Podcast. And today I have Claire with me. She's a dating and relationship coach, a keynote speaker, a writer, a dating expert on Dublin City FM, global retreat leader, and an author. Look at this. How many amazing things she does. Amazing. She's very passionate about helping individuals get out of their heads and into their bodies. And so Claire's mission is to dismantle generational shame, enabling her clients to show up fully as who they are, own their sexuality, and create a life on their terms. And I'm very, very interested to talk to Claire because she's been on a journey that allowed her to release conditioning, which so many of us are in that path as well, and how she also found her soul's path through this releasing of, societal conditions. So, Claire, do you want to say anything else about yourself before we start?
Oh, well, thank you, firstly, for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here and to be able to share some of my story. And I think you've introduced me perfectly. I don't feel I need to add anything to that. And yeah, I love what I do. And I'm all about people being that fullest expression of themselves. So they can have the fulfilling relationships that they really desire, and everything is interconnected. Relationships are connected with how you show up at work or business, so it just has a profound effect. And it's just an absolute joy to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's funny that I put a post the other day talking exactly about this, that how relationships are mirrors to us is the best way for our healing journey, to be honest, because relationships mirrors to us so many shadows about ourselves that we are basically being invited to look within and have that awareness and also build that compassion towards ourselves and others.
It's so true. I think the people closest to us always tend to mirror the pieces and the parts of ourselves that we need to reintegrate and really bring into the light. So yeah, I absolutely agree.
Amazing. So what do you want to share about this journey that you've been on? Do you always have awareness about yourself, or it's been something that you've been healing and working on?
Yeah, great question. And I guess my kind of personal development journey, I'd say really started when I stepped into being an entrepreneur. I think that's when I became more aware, much more aware of myself. And I think if I think back, I think everything that I did in my younger years, like absolutely I was guided by my intuition, but maybe I didn't really know that then. But yeah, I stepped into being an entrepreneur about 15 years ago. So in a different business, and then have been in this current business for just over 7 years. And I guess that was like the start of me going, oh my gosh, I feel like, I'd had a career in advertising, but then I'd had 6 years at home with my kids. And I think that time bringing up kids and being a mum, like just lost a bit of my identity and sense of self. And I think, suddenly stepping into business, it really brought all of that up to the surface and really caused me to try and find myself again, essentially. And so have been on this, big kind of journey since then. And yeah, like over time have worked with more coaches and invested and been on retreats and all the things, right?
Yeah.
That felt right to do. And I guess like the most pivotal time in my journey, which I think really speaks to the question when I first reached out to you about being on the podcast, was about kind of following your soul's path. And that really happened when was it? I was about 48, just turned 48, so 2.5 years ago. And I had been married for 19 years, together with my ex-husband for 21, 3 children. And I went through what I would describe as an awakening, spiritual, sexual awakening, and literally like overnight felt like a different woman.
Wow.
And had essentially come back to myself, come back to who I truly was. And it was a really bizarre kind of surreal moment, because it actually happened when I was in the midst of leading a retreat for 6 women.
Oh, wow. Oh, dear.
And it was phenomenal. It was powerful, really powerful. And all the things that happened after that were just like, oh, of course, I was receiving all of this love and gratitude and, abundance, like, everything energetically had shifted for me.
Wow.
And so I kind of known that I wasn't 100% happy in my relationship. I'd been really looking at that myself and really like looking at, how can I help to improve this? And so that was kind of bubbling away at the surface, really. And then, had this kind of awakening, and literally it caused me to throw everything up in the air.
Wow.
And it would have been, so I got back from the retreat. It was about 3 weeks later that the words fell out of my mouth that I'm leaving.
Wow.
I'm leaving my marriage. And it was a huge moment. And it was like the fear was present, but it didn't impact my action like at all. It was just like there, but it was like, it felt like my soul was screaming that I absolutely had to go. And it became like a decision that felt non-negotiable. That's the only way I can describe it. And I think, something I kind of learned going through this awakening process was literally looking at everything in my life and going, okay, what's in alignment and what's not? Okay, what's not goes. So people in my life went, obviously my relationship, but also beliefs. It really caused me to bring all of my beliefs up to the surface and go, okay, what's mine and what's adopted?
Exactly.
What have I adopted and embodied from my conditioning? And, this was a process that kind of continued for, well, it still is continuing. My weeks are huge. That's part of the journey, right?
Exactly. As I always say, healing is a journey, not a destination. We are on this for the rest of our lives.
Yes. And I have days where I'm like, really? Am I going through this again? But each time healing a deeper level, or layer rather. And what I've processed in 2.5 years is probably more than I processed in the first 48. It's been rapid growth and transformation. I've written a book too, off the back of it.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
I literally just finished editing it at the weekend, so that's pretty exciting.
Oh wow, I can't wait. When is going to be the launch?
I would imagine 2025, because I would really like to sell it into a big publisher. And so the lead time for that is probably about 18 months.
Oh,
So
amazing.
yeah, it feels like
I'm sure it's
a
going to
big
inspire. Yeah.
big moment in time to just complete the process, but huge part of my healing,
Hmm.
just writing the book, and then re-editing it, editing it. It was like, oh my gosh, like more processing. So yeah, it's been a really powerful experience. And yeah, I mean, just making that decision was such a huge leap of faith into just the unknown. I'd
Yeah.
never navigated such a big life change, and yeah, it's been radical.
What I feel, because I'm very intuitive, so what I feel is that you had a huge amount of trust in yourself and in the
Mm-hmm.
process to go through such a turning point in your life.
Yeah.
Because what I believe is that we get so used to have that person with us. We get so comfortable to be in a relationship or to be in a job that it's really hard to let it go.
Yeah.
And
Oh gosh, so hard.
it's what I feel, isn't it? Like it's so. I think it's more like I will cling on this because I've worked so hard and I gave so much of my time and energy and
Yeah.
love and passion. And when there are kids involved, it's I imagine it's even harder. And having that courage and that trust to just know
Mm,
I'm gonna be sovereign. I'm gonna listen to my soul and just follow what it feels right to me. Wow,
mm.
that's very inspiring, Claire.
Thank you. And yeah, it was like that process and that awakening, like it kind of like had to happen to give me that
Mm,
confidence and that courage.
yeah.
I've always been confident, but I think it was another level of that. And like you say, huge amounts of self trust. And it's no coincidence you're talking about this right now about, how, we kind of like mold ourselves in a relationship and it
Mm,
becomes, part of our identity,
it is.
being married to your partners, like that
Mm,
that is a huge part of your identity, and something I'm really sitting with right now and just feels really relevant to voice, given you've just shared this, is actually feeling like I need to let go of being a coach now,
oh, okay. It's
which
another form of
is
identity.
radical. Yeah, it's like I've spent thousands, like six figures on being a coach and investing in being a coach. And it's the same, it's
Hmm.
the same as like when you're putting 21 years into a relationship, you put all that time and effort, and it's like, you're going to let that go, right?
Yep.
It's
Yes.
like, of course, logically,
No.
doesn't make sense, right?
Yes.
um, but I think, yeah, I've been really sitting with this for a while, and I'm like, wow, it feels huge because it feels like going completely naked,
Yes.
um,
Stripping everything out.
exactly. And it's like, okay, how do I even introduce myself then? Like,
Mm.
what does that look like? Well, I
You,
don't know.
you introduce
Um,
yourself as Claire.
exactly.
Just Claire, the
That's
raw
it.
Claire. Exactly.
That's
Because
it.
it's like I think it's part of the conditioning that you were talking about. Like we
Yes.
get so used to these labels that we are a mom, that we are a
Yep.
wife, that we are, a coach. All of these labels that society and culture condition us to believe like we have to do this, we have to go to uni, we have to be graduate, we have to
Yep.
do all of these courses in order to feel sovereign in the identity of being a coach or being a teacher or being
Mm,
this or being that. And the same with our personal lives,
yeah.
I completely relate when you said that we have this identity as being a wife,
Yeah.
the same as when we have this identity of being a mom, and we lose, as you said so wisely, we lose ourselves in the process. All of a sudden, who's Claire, who's Ligia? No, we are so and so mom,
Yeah.
so and so wife.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. That's it. And that all starts, if you think in childhood, oh, that's so-and-so's sister. I was the second child. So it's like, oh, she's so-and-so's, show up at school. Oh, it's Katie's sister. Yeah. Oh, okay. Right. Where did I go? And it's immediately that is, or so-and-so's daughter. Like, that is it. You just get, it is conditioning. You're absolutely right. And there's I think there's so many like narratives that are just like subconsciously spoken in our conditioning. Of course, that's how it all plays out. Like when you meet someone, what do you do? People say that. Like that's pretty quick to say, what do you do? So it's like,
how are you being? What you do?
Yeah, it's like, I am myself. I am myself. Oh, okay. That gets people to stop and listen. But I think we're just wired by so much of these narratives that just keep us in a box, and we don't get to be ourselves fully.
Oh, that's so true. We hide behind these labels, these identities, these roles that we play, and we believe that we are that we are the roles, that we are, yes, we are all of those things, but really we are not. Because deep down on our soul level, as our raw essence, we are not those labels. We are just us.
That's it. We are naked and stripped back.
Oh, yes.
Exactly. That is the best way to describe it, isn't it?
It is. But it takes courage, it takes courage. And I'm so interested to know how the awakening happened. Was that natural? Did you were doing like some sort of ritual or deep work within that retreat? Or it just, boom, really?
No. Do you know it? No, and I think this is another thing I was talking with someone about earlier, actually, how, and I've seen this in places, actually in Bali, I've seen it. I don't know if you've ever been to Bali.
No, I wish.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you have to go. Like, it's like one of my soul homes. But I remember I went to Bali last February for a month.
Wow.
Which was huge, leaving my children for a month, because I felt really drawn to go and do that. And deeply grateful to my ex-husband who said, yep, I'll look after them for a month and you can go and solo travel in Bali. So it was a really big deal for me. And but anyway, that's not really the point, actually. The point was, I remember landing in Ubud, and I love Ubud. But there was this, I was there for the first week, and I was like, God, like Ubud is like such a center for spirituality.
Yeah, I've heard.
But there was this energy of being really fucking serious about it. I didn't ask you if I could swear, but I just did.
That's okay. You being you. We being you, no judgment whatsoever.
But there was this like real seriousness around spirituality and practicing all these things. And if I think about how my awakening started, it literally was me recognizing something that it was a story I was attached to in my head, and it was a breakthrough moment. And I shed a lot of tears, and I felt something physically move in my body.
Wow.
And I'd say that was just energetically move, something energetically unlock. And it was like, that was it. It's unlocked now.
Wow.
Yeah. So it wasn't doing any crazy spiritual practice. Not crazy. They're not crazy. I do spiritual practices, but it's interesting how we think
it has to be
do, more doing.
Yes.
And actually, quite often spirituality just doesn't actually...
No.
Isn't like that.
Again, I think it's another conditioning, because like to me, having a spiritual practice can be just being with yourself. It's just being.
Exactly. just
You
be.
don't have to do, like, some people get so attached to, I have to do the rituals and I have to do the meditations and I have to do the journaling and the oracle readings and all of these things, when in fact you just have to be with yourself, sit with your emotions.
Yep.
That's all that
Yep.
is.
It is so true. And I think, it can be really overcomplicated and made hard, and serious, when actually it can actually be, well, sitting with your emotions. Like, don't get me wrong, like this morning I was really sitting with my emotions. Like, I had one of those mornings where everything was coming up to the surface, and I actually went for a walk. Like, I went for a walk to just try and move that. I could tell that, like, just staying sat at my desk trying to do what I wanted to do was not going to happen.
Yeah. No, it's the best way to regulate the nervous system. Crying is a good way. Going for a walk is another good way. And I know that you are CrossFitter.
Yes.
Well, so exercise is another good way. So you know all of these things.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, this morning I went to hot pod yoga, and the first thing I did when I got on the mat was to start crying. As soon as I got in there, it was like, tears. Oh, okay, it's all going on.
They just needed to be released. And that is like, when I talk about sitting with the emotions, exactly that. It's just acknowledging the emotions, letting them move through how they have to move through, and not overthinking that. Just let it be. And then look at you. You're here. I will never say that you had the meltdown in the morning. You look so stunning. You have such a beautiful light around you. I wouldn't say that.
Thank you. Well, I did. I even went for a quick walk before I came on the podcast. So I was like, I still need to shake something off here. Like, I'm not ready to jump in. And it's like, movement is so good to move energy. And
It is. So you reckon that you found your soul's path before the awakening? Were you already on a journey, or was just after this awakening and connecting with yourself and the divorce per se as well? Do you think?
I think the real point was when I actually spoke the words, "I'm leaving," and that's when, it really was. It felt like. I mean, I remember kind of just, when I talk about that relationship coming to a completion, I talk about the fact I just feel we were out of alignment. That was all. Like, it was like our soul contract was up. It was done. And that's what I really feel happened. And I feel I was chosen to be woken up to get on that path and actually really do the work that I'm here to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because since then, I've been on a massive journey, all connected with dating. And that's been a really big part of, my healing and really owning my sexuality. And I realized that I was carrying a lot of generational shame around sex, and that I don't know if you're aware of this, but the vulva and the vocal cords are a direct mirror image. So when a woman is not owning her sexuality, she's not owning her voice, and vice versa. So I started to really own my voice, my sexuality, and it was like, oh my gosh, like everything is like, I'm allowing myself to fully express myself without the fear that I was carrying before, the fear of upsetting someone. Don't get me wrong, that still comes up, right? Because I put some pretty vulnerable posts out publicly, and it will come up to the surface, and I'm like, oh god, this is edgy. But
before pressing post, I'm like, should I not?
Exactly. I'm like, it's gone now. Oops. But it's I remind myself of what I know I'm here for, and I know that being courageous and modeling that kind of freedom state is really my legacy.
Do you have any daughters? Or it's
Yes.
just you two? So you model
2
it for
boys.
them?
Yeah, 2 boys and 1 girl I have. Yeah.
Me too.
Oh, do you? The same?
Yeah.
Oh,
same.
wow.
2 boys and a girl.
Amazing. So it's a good combo.
It is. Completely different. The way, I don't know, the boys, I think they were raised in a way, and she's just so sassy, you know. She's
Oh, yeah.
she gets away with everything.
Oh, I can imagine. Are they in that order? The boys and the
yeah,
daughter?
the girl was the last,
okay. Yeah. Same.
Same.
Oh my. Yeah. Oh, I know. And how old are they?
17, 15, and 8. She's 8 now.
Oh,
and
amazing.
I see so much, like, raising her. It's just like mirroring to me a lot of my childhood traumas. You know, a lot of the conditioning.
Yeah.
I was abused when I was a child, so a lot of things come up to me. And seeing her just being herself and owning it and being sassy, and it just brings me so much joy, because I was not allowed to be that, you know?
Yes. Isn't it amazing? It's amazing when you can, you see them being so expressive and, you know, being the kind of mum who just, like, welcomes that, like, and celebrates that.
And I'm assuming with you it's the same. Like, you just setting the path for your daughter not to be conditioned by these fears. And, you know, for me, for example, being Portuguese and being such a Catholic culture, there are a lot of shame around sex and sexuality and all of those things. So I don't know if it was the way, like, you were brought up, and that was like the releasing of the conditioning you went through.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. I wasn't Catholic, but, you know, we did used to go to church. We were Christian, and there was a time in my childhood when, you know, my mum was navigating divorce, and, you know, she looked to the church, so we went there all the time. You know, and it was, and my grandparents very much, you know, were churchy people. So I think a lot of religions, you know, absolutely, it's like so much shame that is being carried, like,
oh yes, if we
for
go
generations.
If you go and you look at the history of the women, the way we've been persecuted as witch, being sexual, being a prostitute, you know, that was no choice for them. It was the way of them living and surviving. But the shame that even the religion put on the women for, you know, even the way we dressed, we had to be covered and all of these things. So if you look at the history, women have been, even now, persecuted. If a woman is raped, the normal conversation is, what did you do to attract the attention of a man?
Exactly.
So aren't we allowed to feel safe and just be ourselves without triggering?
Wear a short skirt, wear your low cut top, you know, be sexy.
Exactly. So
it's been we've been wired with this narrative, interestingly, from men, about men, which is, you know, if he gives you something, he wants something in return.
Oh yeah.
You know, what does he want?
Yes.
What does he want? And it's such a toxic, you know, narrative that needs to go, like, giving to receive.
Yes, that's true. Wow. Very powerful. But it is like, why can't you just give for the sake of it? But I think it's
exactly just give with no attachment.
Yes.
You know, give with no attachment. And it's like, there's always like, oh, what are you going to get in return? Well, like, that's been bred into the men, as well. And it's like, none of it's worked for either gender.
No. That's true. Yeah, that's very, very interesting topic. Because as women, we've been so vulnerable to this and to the shaming, because that's another conditioning. If a man has more than a woman, if it's a playboy or something like that, wow, look at him, amazing, just, and if it's a woman doing the same, is the whore, or, it's called all these names, isn't it?
Yeah, I talk about that a lot in my work, actually, how, being a stud has always been celebrated,
Yes.
Like, oh, well done, mate. Oh, nice one.
Yes.
Whereas for women, it was like, being a slut, well, that was, like really negative connotations. And why would it be any different?
Yeah. But we still have that, unfortunately, isn't it?
I think...
Or do you think...
Yeah, and that's why... Well, I do think, I agree. There's still, because that has been so ingrained in us. But that's why, our work is so important, to help bring all of that conditioning up to the surface and go, actually, this is bullshit, and it's not creating equality.
No. Yeah.
And and it's stopping women really embody their full true power, because when a woman really embodies her sexuality and her sexual energy, like, she brings that into everything she does, that impacts her business, that impacts, every single life that she touches, because she's whole. And if you think, women are amazing at creating communities. So the impact that women have on the world is phenomenal. Brilliant connectors, and bringing people together.
Yeah, and I think it's also our creative energy.
Exactly.
It's through our womb that we create and we mother everything, isn't it? So so many women have that blocked.
It taps into all of that.
Absolutely.
It's true. And that's where we receive. That's where we receive. And it's, women have been conditioned to give to the man.
Be a people pleaser.
Put everyone else's needs first. Give. We haven't been taught how to receive.
True. Funny enough, it's one of the things that I encounter with a lot of my clients. And, if I look at my own story, yes, it's been that feeling we are not worthy of receiving love, of receiving abundance, of receiving pleasure, of receiving, money, just receiving. We do struggle a lot with that. And it's kind of a trauma. It's a generational trauma that we have. As you say, we've been conditioned from centuries just to be there and put everyone's needs first. And actually not vocalize our needs.
Exactly. Yeah. And I noticed, through my coaching practice over the years, like, most of the women who have come to me, when I ask them, what do you want? No idea.
Yeah.
Because, we haven't been given that opportunity to voice what our needs are, because we've been considering everyone else's needs, and obviously when you have a baby, right, you have to put the baby's needs first, right? We have to do that, because a baby is dependent on us. But I think the more we can ask for help, but allow ourselves to, take that support, then we can really start to be truly of service and really embody all of our power,
Yeah, that's true. Becoming sovereign in our power. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. It's such an inspirational conversation, because I think it might not that we don't realize that regarding our intimacy, regarding our sexual power, sexuality. But even if we don't have that awareness at first, we can see it now. And I think the listeners can see it now, how that pours into all the areas of our lives. That then we see, okay, I'm overburdened, managing so many plates at once. I don't feel supported. I don't feel understood or listened to. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel fulfilled. Because basically we're just hiding parts of ourselves, and this part of ourselves that we were conditioned to believe is shameful.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
And shame is one of the most...
It's the biggest block, isn't it?
It's
the biggest blocker.
Yeah. And it's the biggest cause of actual trauma in us.
I agree.
It's around shame and guilt. But shame is the most, because shame says that something is wrong about myself.
Yeah.
Whereas to guilt is like, something I did was wrong.
Yeah.
So you put the weight on the action. But shame it's about me.
Yeah.
And then we believe we are something wrong, right? And I think that's what it blocks us as women so much regarding sexuality and intimacy. Because then the labels of the society is like, oh, if I'm too sexual, that's shameful. So that means that I'm shameful, that I'm a slut, that I'm not in control of my desires. Do you agree with this?
Yeah, 100%. It's huge, and it's, I think the more we talk about this, this is the most important part, is actually raising awareness about this and talking about sex and sexuality and intimacy, like normalize it. It's nothing, there's nothing taboo about it, like, because anything that is done behind closed doors carries shame. And that's very much like what conditioning has taught us. And I think it's just important to be talking about it and helping others get more comfortable with talking about it. I mean, I can speak for myself. Like 3 years ago, I was not comfortable talking about sex at all.
Really?
At all.
Wow, what a difference.
No, and now it's like pretty much like people would stop me in the street and tell me like about their sex life. Like, I talk about sex all the time. Like, it's easy for me. But it wasn't, because I was carrying all of this shame. And like you say, it just really blocks us. And we suddenly don't have a voice for that part of ourselves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And when we try to talk about it, it's like, doesn't come out. Yeah. I'm struggling.
Exactly. Of course, because it's all connected. I go bright red and, all the things.
Oh my God, that's very interesting, and it's like activating a lot of thoughts in me as well, because because as I said, I had a lot of conditioning growing up regarding this due to the religions and the culture, and to be completely honest, I'm like I'm not a person that talks about it a lot. Sure. Like, I joke about it. Sure. I'm very naughty in that sense. With my close friends, when they sometimes like, oh, you dirty mind. You know what I mean? I'm a lot like that.
Bring it on.
I just like, if you like to open up about my relationship with my husband, for example, and our intimacy, I feel it's private. I don't talk about it.
Sure.
But it's very good. I don't think I also have anyone in my circle where I can freely talk about it without judgment, without feeling ashamed. And I think that is a very important fact.
I agree. And I think I noticed since being on this journey, like how many people will jump in my DMs, share with me about a sexual experience they've had, really like explicitly. And it's interesting you brought that up, because something I've been playing with is like, do I create a group for people to be able to feel like they can just express this and share it? Because when people play out their sexual desires, they actually get telling someone about it, like actually they get to relive it and, get more pleasure by sharing and voicing it. Like it's a big thing. So I think there's something to be said for a space for this kind of thing. And I think, that's definitely something I'm going to consider.
Yeah, I think is a lot of factors of us not opening up about it or fully expressing it is that trust. Like, should I trust this person to know about this very vulnerable side of me? Because it is like you stripping everything out, isn't it? It's very
getting naked.
Exactly. And then you're like, do I, even with someone that you get along very well, you might get along with other identities or roles. But this one, should I tell or should I? It's that shame again, that shame conditioning playing there. I'm like, no, it's better that person doesn't know this part of me because they might not like it. They might judge it. They might reject it. And that brings up a lot of stuff.
We, most people have carry an abandonment wound. So there's the fear of rejection. If I show this, they won't love me anymore.
Yes.
And then I'll be alone. That's generally tends to be the thought process. And so we don't share it because we fear being alone.
Yeah, exactly. But as you said, maybe having a community where everyone is on the same page, everyone shares the same fears, and you can just express yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
People are more willing to talk. Yeah, I think so. It's more, it's healing, because that's the thing. Relationships are healing. And when we share and resonate, with someone's story and journey, that's why we say we heal ourselves and we heal the world, because that's
100%. And someone, sharing their thoughts around it. They won't be the only person who has those thoughts. And I think, speaking about like sexual desires, people have some really interesting kinks and unusual kinks, right? And there's a lot of shame. They can have shame around that. Yes. And I think having a space where people can share that, it just allows others to share all their kinky thoughts and the ones that they've hidden away because they're like, oh, better not share that one.
Yep.
Because that's what they've been told. Keep that in your mind. You don't share it.
Don't share it. It's shameful.
Exactly.
It's a sin.
Exactly. Yeah. That word,
Those words, but it is,
honestly, it's like, Christ.
If you've been brought up in a religious setting, that's the narrative. It's a sin.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah. In the church, there's, if you've sinned, you go and talk to the priest.
Or you're not going to heaven if you sinned, isn't it?
True.
And that fear of, it's
True.
just fear-mongering. It's just like, isn't it?
Yeah.
Going to hell. Oh, I'm sinning. I'm going to be judged and I'm going to hell.
Yeah. Yeah. So fear-driven and, toxic.
Very toxic. And even this correlation between, sexuality and the devil, that it's devil's work.
That's true, yes.
Because, if you are following the God's law and everything, you're just very contained. You're like Virgin Mary, you're very contained. Even the story says, Virgin Mary had a baby. But if you show your desires, like the prostitute that Jesus helped, that was the shame. She was going to be persecuted. She was going to be ashamed for it. And there is a lot still so many centuries after all of this, but there is still so much conditioning around it.
Yeah, it's so true. That's what we are educated with.
Yes, it's true. And so it's our role, as you are doing now for your daughter,
Mhm.
to just change the narrative and just,
Yeah,
just normalize the conversation.
normalize it. That's
Mm,
it. Just normalize it and make it feel acceptable that
yeah.
you own all of that. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing filthy about you. There's nothing naughty about you. You're just being a human and enjoying that whole fullest experience. Yeah.
True. What an amazing conversation, Claire.
Great conversation.
Very
Loved it.
eye-opening. I loved it. Very eye-opening. And I think that's it. Like, I always aim, to bring guests to my podcast where there is no judgment and when we can actually bring awareness to things that most people don't talk about.
Great.
And I think we accomplished that today.
I think we did that.
I think so, and you're so
loved
confident in the way that you talk about it and you show up that gives permission to other women to do the same. And I think that is so important.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
important.
you're welcome. I loved this conversation. It was, really powerful. So thank you for holding the space.
Oh, you're most welcome. I thank you so much for coming, here and having this open conversation without, I don't feel any judgment, even when I shared. Might be like that I'm not open in terms of maybe the condition I went through, and I'm aware of it. I didn't felt any judgment from your parts, but just, showing love and say, okay, this is normal.
Exactly. That's
There's
it.
nothing wrong about it. We are just having a conversation that it's so empowering. And I think we are in an age, finally, I think, that women are rising. Women are embracing their power. And this is part of it.
Huge part of it. Like a huge part of it. Yeah, 100%.
And as you can see from Claire's story, it's never too late.
No, that's it.
To find us.
Yeah, that is it. That's why I have to get my story out as much as possible, and it will be coming out in my book because I know that's my work. That is my legacy, is to change this. This, like, as a oh, do you know what? I've got a card on my desk. That's what I was thinking of. Well-behaved women rarely make history.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it is like unleashing yourself and, allowing yourself to feel free in who you are. And I feel like this is like a sort of moment in history.
It is.
That, it's going to change and has to change.
Yeah, especially
for us, but for our children.
For our children, exactly. And for us as well, I think is really important. I think maybe our children, I think they are more open-minded possibly than
they are. They're definitely and I think that's it. Each generation becomes more evolved, don't they?
Exactly.
Which is good, but I think there's still
work to do, and
still work to do, and for all of us, and for all the women who are maybe sat in marriages and feeling unfulfilled on that level and can't really pinpoint what it is. And I think conditioning causes you to stay, and there's nothing wrong with that, but quite often it's like owning their sexuality is a big part of them really having the fulfilled relationship that they desire.
Exactly. No, I think it's very, very important, and I think it's very healing, very comforting for our generations and possibly our parents' generations, because I think that's when the most conditioning was they're still there, but obviously, as I share this on the podcast many times, generational trauma runs up to 7 generations. So even our children unconsciously, they'll have that on their DNA. So it's very important work that, we bring awareness, we just normalize these kind of conversations. So thank you so much, Claire, for this conversation. All Claire's links will be in the show notes if you want to follow her work. I'm sure she'll bring a beautiful, supportive community very soon. And also she has a book launching next year. So, just follow Claire, follow her work, and, just embrace your power. Claire, just to finish this episode, do you have any tips or any last wisdom to share?
I think my biggest learning in life, and we're not taught this at school, is to always trust yourself.
Yes.
Always trust yourself. And that is a feeling state.
Yes.
It's not a thinking, it's nothing to do with your mind, it's a feeling state. So that would be my final little tip. But thank you for this conversation. I have loved it.
Thank you so much. And see you on the next one.
See you. Bye.
Bye. To finalize these episodes, I just pulled a card from the Trust Journaling deck so you can journal about this. And I believe this card is so on point with the conversation we just had with Claire, which was so empowering. And the card that I pulled is from the Reflection Suite. And the soul inquiry is, what needs to happen for me to step into my true self? What needs to happen for me to step into my true self? And the affirmation is, I believe I'm here to make a difference. Wow, so powerful. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you for listening to the Soulcery Podcast and for holding space for this conversation. It is truly magical to be able to walk with you on this journey of soul healing and inner transformation. If you resonated with this episode and found it valuable, I would be grateful if you could leave a review on iTunes. Your feedback helps me reach more souls searching for guidance and healing. For more guidance and soul wisdom to support soul awakening women through the journey of alchemy, please visit my website www.llshit.co.uk. Love and healing to all. See you on the next one. To finalize these episodes, I just pulled a card from the Trust Journaling deck so you can journal about this. And I believe this card is so on point with the conversation we just had with Claire, which was so empowering. And the card that I pulled is from the Reflection Suite. And the soul inquiry is, what needs to happen for me to step into my true self? What needs to happen for me to step into my true self? And the affirmation is, I believe I'm here to make a difference. Wow, so powerful. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation, and I will see you on the next one.